Hey guys, so this video is just going to be kind of general. What does it mean to solve a quadratic? I think we hear that a lot. You're going to be asked to do that. And so it's kind of what does it mean? And all that is if we have a quadratic equation, and this is the example, sorry, we're going to use x squared minus 3x minus 4 is equal to 0, okay? And all we're saying is to solve a quadratic is to find the values of x that make this equation true, right? Just like if we had, x plus 4 equals 7, and we said solve, you would just subtract 4 from both sides, right? X equals 3. But it gets a little more complicated, right? Because we have this x squared term. So over the next, probably week or two, we're going to be talking about different methods for solving quadratics. And the first one I want to show you is just how to do that by graphing. So you can always check your answers doing this. You will have to solve other ways and where you have to actually show your work in doing that, okay? But graphing is kind of like a way you can always go back and check your answer. And so I think it's a good thing just to know from the start how to do. So let's think about what's going to happen. If we want to make this equation true, then we need to plug numbers into x that would make this whole thing 0, right? Whole thing equal to 0. So how might we do that, right? If we want to solve by graphing, let's go over to our calculator, okay? And I hope you guys can see this. So you should have your calculator at home. If not, you can use Desmos, okay? It'll look a little different. You just have to graph it. On Desmos, you know how to type it in, but this is how you do it on a TI calculator, right? You go to the y equals menu, and you type in whatever your equation is. So we had x squared minus 3x minus 4, okay? And then that's one side of the equal sign. And what do we want that to be equal to, right? 0. Okay, and so we put that in its different line, and you actually don't have to do that, but I kind of like doing it, okay? So that's what we're looking for. We want these two equations to be equal. Well, where there's the same, and we've kind of already talked about this, but if we had a system of equations, right, where the two sides of the equation same, where they intersect. So look, on this we've got, I don't know if I can use my pointer, but if you look at where it crosses, right, there and there, so it looks like it's about -1 and +4, is where these two lines intersect. It also is where if we have the equation set equal to 0, like we did, right, it's just the roots. And you guys already know how to identify roots, right, of a quadratic where it crosses the x-axis. And we called that, if you remember, we called it roots, solutions, or x-intercepts. That's why we called it the solutions, because if you have a quadratic that's set equal to 0 and you graph it, then the roots are just the solution where you've solved the quadratic equation. So in this case, our roots are -1 and 4. Now, if you weren't sure exactly where that crossed, okay, you could do a couple different things. We could do second over here, and then trace, which is actually the calc button, right? And you can calculate a 0 or an intersect. So since I graphed 2 lines, right, I could calculate an intersect, but we'll just do a 0 for now. This would work if you just had 1. And then you have to choose your left bound and your right bound. So if I want to find this first 0, my left bound, I'm using my arrow key, is going to be on this side, and my right bound is on that side. Okay, and then it says guess, and so I'm going to get kind of close. Enter, and you see that my first 0 is, if I plug in -1, then y is going to equal 0. Okay, so that's a solution. And then I could go back and do that for the other one too. Okay, and so the key here is the roots is where it makes it equal 0. So in this case, x was equal to -1, +4, right? As my answers. One more thing, for quadratics, okay, we're always going to have 2 answers, right? We're going to find 2 answers because it's a squared term. So we'll always have 2 numbers here. Now, those numbers could be the same, okay? I don't know if you guys remember from graphs, we could have 1 root, 2 roots, or no roots. So no roots, we're not going to be solving equations like that yet. You would just say no solution. But it could just have one, and what would happen is you would solve it, and they would be the same number. You would get like -2 and -2. But we can just write that, right, as -2. So, but for the most part, we're going to have 2 answers on this. So your first assignment is just going to be using quadratics. Graph them on your calculator. Give me the roots. Solve them, and then we'll talk about more methods for solving in the next videos.